Hello and welcome to another episode of A Pint of Perspective, Green King's Inclusion Podcast. My name is Gary Clark-Strange, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm your host for today's episode. So welcome to the podcast. We have Luke, we have Zara, and we have Si, who I'm privileged to call all friends of mine over the last few years working at Green King. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome to season 2 of A Pint of Perspective.
Exciting.
We've got a fun hour planned, and I say fun, in reality, we're going to talk about your own personal experiences. And we I guess the point of today is to share and to storytell, to talk about different experiences that we've had in our own lives, but also how we are overcoming barriers or challenges that we've had to still succeed. Because that's what's most important, to show that even though with the way that things are put in front of us, we can still overcome them and go through change. So that's the plan for today. I'm really looking forward to this hour. Looking forward to spending time with you all. Can we do some quick intros? I won't do Creep of Death, but I will. Okay, we're starting with Si.
Let's do it.
So Si.
So hi, Gary, thanks for inviting me today. It's great to be here. I'm Si, so I'm the head of learning experience here at Green King, part of the wider people and culture team, along with your lovely self.
Yeah.
And yeah, excited to be here today and have a great conversation.
Thank you.
Super. I'm Zara Von Wade. I'm HR business partner for Hungry Horse in the North. My pronouns are she, her. Yeah, really pleased to be here. A little bit nervous, but excited
don't be nervous.
As well.
Amongst friends. Luke, last but not least.
I'm Luke.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Central Operations Director for Destination Brands. Very big mouthful.
It is.
It is.
So I work in the Destination Brands team, supporting our pubs in that part of the business.
And I guess the reason why we asked you three to be together as a collective today is that you've all worked together in the past, but interestingly, don't work together anymore. You all work together at Green King, but don't work together anymore. But actually, that's a really, I guess, good story around development and around how opportunities have opened up for you all. But let's not spoil the story just yet of how we've got to today. I want to talk about you all individually first and talk about, your own backgrounds and I guess your experiences with Green King as well. So let's start with you, Zara. Let's go deep into the deep end there. I'll go straight into the deep end even. So I guess from the moment I met you, what I always understood was that you were really, really open about your sexuality, but also about your experiences working in the hospitality industry. So without putting you on the spot, tell us a bit about you.
So I'm bisexual and I'm very open about that, but it is a very recent thing. So I'm 35 years old and I came out, is there such a thing as coming out? I suppose self-realized at the age of 30. So really, really late on in life. I described to you, Gary, that I see myself as the worst queer in the world because I realized I was bisexual or opened up to that when I was already married to a straight man. So I kind of joke that that's a terrible place to be as a bi woman who also struggles with gender identity on a daily basis as well. But it's something that I've become quite proud of. And actually, the way in which I described it to my husband was that nothing changes. Yeah. I'm still the same person. I'm not going to suddenly run off with a woman or another man or anything like that. Because I think that there has a tendency to see bisexuality as promiscuity.
Yeah.
And actually, for me, my coming out was just a way of untangling all of these thoughts that were in my brain that have been going on for 30 years. And it was like a bit of a eureka moment.
How did it feel when you had that moment of realization?
A complete mixture, I think, of happiness and understanding, but also a little bit of sadness that it's taken 30 years to get to that point, and frustration with myself, but mostly happy. It's like a puzzle piece is slotted into place, and now you understand why you are the way you are, why you think certain things. Like when I was growing up, I thought I was meant to be a boy because I was attracted to girls.
Yeah.
And therefore I struggled with my gender all throughout my teens, and I was a massive tomboy, and I thought this is who I'm meant to be, and then probably flipped way too far the other way and became ultra feminine to kind of fight against that.
So counteract it.
Yeah.
So did it feel like the pieces all started to fit together when you had that realization? Was that like as part of your eureka moment?
Definitely, but it never felt totally complete. I think what then happened was a load of questions that followed that around, great that I've kind of identified my sexuality. I think a lot of bi people struggle with, are you bi, are you pan? But then also starting to question my gender as well, because that wasn't something that I felt like was totally solved for me.
Yeah.
And I still don't now. I still have questions every day. I would refer to myself as non-binary, but I use she, her pronouns because I'm very femme-presenting with my gender identity. So it's like going through a second puberty almost, but in a really positive way, because it's nice to discover things about yourself.
And I think there's so much still stigma, more so around bisexuality than there is about being gay or lesbian. I think still there is more probably bias as well towards that. And it's generally down to a lack of understanding because it's not talked about as much.
Yeah, and it can come from both outside the community and also inside the community, because
agree.
You're almost seen as too gay to be straight and too straight to be gay. And especially myself as a woman who is in a heteronormative relationship with a man, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking part in a pride parade because to the naked eye, myself and my husband look like a straight couple.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult, even when you come out as bisexual, to understand where you fit in anywhere.
I think we'll probably explore that some more as we move through the conversation. So moving to you, tell us a bit about your background.
I've been with Green King for 14 years now. Wow. Which is, it's just flown. It's flown, but I've been in the hospitality industry about 25 years. And I think one of the big things I reflect on is the start of my journey, which was similar to a lot of people, part-time work, beer money while studying. But when I became quite serious about this was the industry for me, the start of my journey within the hospitality industry was not particularly good.
Okay.
I made the decision with my then husband at the time that we'd apply for a pub with a big pub company. We went through an interview process. And when we got to the final interview, they called it a grandfather interview with the operations director.
I mean, that term in itself is not good, but anyway.
No, it should have been a red flag at the time. But yeah, we went for this. We went for this interview with the ops director, and he actually came out in front of us, looked me in the eye, and said, "I think you're both great. However, I don't think we could put a gay married couple in to run the pub that we'd applied for."
Wow.
Which was just. Like, thinking about it now is you just can't believe people would say that and look somebody in the eye.
So you're okay to run the pub, but you can't because you're in a same-sex relationship, basically.
Yeah, is essentially what he was saying.
And that's still, I guess that mentality will still exist in society. We think we've moved forward a lot. It's 2024, but I guess there's probably still some challenge to do around that. Yeah. So have you always been open about your sexuality within work?
Do you know what? I have within the hospitality industry. I've worked in other industries in the past where I've not felt as comfortable, and I think the way that I came out, so really, really quick background was almost forced to go to a private boys' school, hated it, would never recommend anybody sending their children there. It didn't have a good experience at coming out. Even with own family members, we were a really close family at the time. But, I'm 43, so 1980s child. And actually at 18, having a conversation with my mum that said, I think I might be gay. And her response was, well, you must have AIDS. You need to go and see a doctor. And why are you making this choice? Which was really, really interesting conversations. And if I'm dead honest, that relationship's never fully recovered.
Yeah.
But that being said, we are, we're still, she came to my wedding when I got married. With my current partner, we go round to her house and she comes round to ours. But there's still this thing at the back of my mind that says that
it was a time and place.
It
and
was.
It's a common experience when you talk to people from that time where that coming out experience, what was that? You know, when there was a perception of, especially around the time of the AIDS crisis, is that's what your life was going to be.
Yeah,
and
completely.
You know, and it was hard to, I guess, at that point, having a similar experience, was the concept of ever thinking about that you'd be with a partner long term and even get married. Like, you know, it's now so accepted.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, there's no way I'll ever get married.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it wasn't legal.
Yeah.
So we've moved on.
Yeah, we have.
Thank you for sharing that. That's
Thank you.
That's tough to share, but I really appreciate you being so open. Luke, moving on to you to get to know you a bit more, because we've not heard from you yet.
No.
Talk about your background for us.
I've worked for Green King not as long as Si. This is the 9th year for me, so it'll be 9 years in August. I'm dyslexic, so I was diagnosed with dyslexia as a young child. Had hidden my dyslexia in the workplace for a long period of time, and it wasn't until I started working with these two and realised how brave they are about being who they are and being open about who they are, and that I started to talk about it. So,
what age were you then, Luke?
Oh, you're trying to reveal my age, Gary?
Okay.
Can we guess?
I was 35, 36.
Wow, okay.
So, yeah. So,
you masked it till then, basically.
all in the workplace. At school, had a torrid time, was really tough. I still have a bee in my bonnet about the school system and how they are unable to adapt to children with needs, or differing needs. I then came into the workplace and thought I would be judged for being dyslexic, and you don't want to put on an application process because you don't feel like you're going to get through. You then struggle through your or you get someone to help you during your recruitment process, and then once you're in, you're like, well, I've kind of fibbed now, haven't I? So how do I now start talking about it when I haven't disclosed it at recruitment? So hid it. Worked at Green King. Worked for two fantastic leaders who were very supportive, and looking back, quite easily would have been able to talk to them about it, but thought that I would be judged because of it.
How is it affecting you in your day-to-day, having to, I guess, mask that continually?
It was tiresome. So, like, very tiring. You would there'd be occasional moments of being caught out and stuff like that, like being asked to write on a flip chart or complete a PowerPoint presentation in public, like that type of stuff. But it just did. You learn how to hide things. You learn how to use technology. You kind of adapt to be able to not make sure you're not in those environments.
Yeah.
Like as soon as a flip chart paper and pen comes out, you're the leaf kicker at the back of the crowd, like looking at the floor and not really wanting to engage in it. But so it on a daily basis for me still now, it's still emails are a nightmare. Massive pre-reads are my worst enemy, but there is now technology available that helps, and Green King has supported me by providing that. So
it's really interesting when you talk about like the term tiresome, right? For anyone, masking anything that might, be seen as a difference, masking that is exhausting. You are doing it constantly, I guess. And it's, then how are you supposed to be your best self? And we talk about inclusion, we talk about everybody feeling like they can be their true self. But actually, if you're masking any part of you, that effort that goes into masking all the time, it's exhausting. Yeah.
And it's like I would work really hard to make sure that everybody else felt like they were included and being able to be themselves. And people would come to me to talk to me, but I was holding so much in that in that load to bear is very tiresome, as well as the masking.
To the detriment of yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Which is what we do sometimes. So you kind of alluded there that joining the team with Zara and Si gave you started to see them being more comfortable. So let's talk about how you three started to connect as a collective. And you all start to smile. You're not, if you're listening to the audio of this, you can't see it. But as we start to talk about that period, what was the I guess, the starting point of this relationship now where you have all grown as individuals?
It was a bit of a funny one because we formed as a team right in the middle of COVID. So Luke and Si were already in the business, and Luke, you were kind of pulling the team together, and I was an external recruit. And I managed to join just as we decided to lock down for the second time. So I'd never met Si or Luke in person. So, and that's a really weird place to be, joining a business and also starting a new job in a new industry.
On Teams.
Fully, yeah.
And we kind of can't imagine what that was like now, 3 years on, but it was real. And that was a lot of us.
And it meant in that moment, I had to trust them both.
Okay.
I had no choice except to trust Si and to trust Luke in coming into the business because I had no one else.
Yeah.
You don't have those conversations while you're making a coffee in the kitchen or anything like that. You don't bump into people as you're crossing from meeting to meeting. The only FaceTime you have is with those people on Teams in a scheduled meeting.
And they can only last for 30 minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
So after that, we can't have a conversation. We've moved on. There's no chance for niceties.
Yeah.
So I guess as the relationship was building then, so we're in lockdown. We're at home.
Yeah.
How does this relationship start to grow?
It felt to me, from my side, it felt quite organic, and I don't know if that's because we were all forced into this same situation of you are at home, you are home working, you are on a screen and a camera. I don't know. I can remember the first time we met in real life. Can you?
Yeah, it was like, you've got legs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how tall you are.
Yeah. And we still all had our masks on, and I think the pubs were allowed to reopen their gardens, so we all said, let's go to a beer garden and socially distance and sit, but just actually spend some time with each other with face masks on. And it was, I can remember it so well. It was a really, really special moment for me because we'd never met. Luke and I had worked previously in a team. So yeah, it was, I don't know, it just felt really organic and really nice.
I think our love of GIFs.
Our love of GIFs.
We communicate through
Memes,
GIFs.
GIFs.
Yeah. Great way to build relationships in the modern day era.
Well, and in the trauma of COVID at the time as well, quite a dark time, we needed some humour.
And it's interesting, right, because you say that, and actually to build trust with someone and to even, so for you coming into the business new, Zara, doing that, we were in a really traumatic time. We were dealing with trauma on a daily basis. We were locked at home, freedom taken away from us as such. And you're trying to build that safety with people and also then be yourself.
Yeah.
That's a really, it is a challenging environment to come into. But what I love about the story is that you all kind of propped each other up, I guess, in that period. And then Luke, as you kind of alluded to at the start of the conversation, you found the strength in them to be able to then talk about your dyslexia and be open about that in the business. What was that moment like when you felt you could say it?
I don't know. I don't even remember the first time we talked about it, but it would have been definitely with these two.
Okay.
At that point, I would have never talked to anybody about it. I think there's definite moments as we were coming out of COVID where we individually struggled with stuff. There was a lot going on. We were in roles that were in and out of furlough, that were under a lot of doing a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, trying to prepare our pubs to get ready.
Yeah.
And one of the first things we did as soon as we were able to, we started to come together in the office. So, and we would have a lunch hour together. So we'd sit socially distanced around desks at the office as soon as we were legally able to. And for one day a week, and just spend that regular time together, but have a break and and talk. And it isn't until you really start to stray off the work topics and stuff like that you then start to listen and hear each other, really hear each other about what makes each other tick.
Yeah.
I remember a moment where we were sat together, the three of us, and we spent the day together in a pub. And Zara told Si and I that she was bisexual, and then left. And Si and I were like, "What?"
I remember my job.
Literally, it felt like she just dropped this mic and walked out. And Si and I just looked at each other and was like, "But she's married. She's getting married to a man."
Yeah.
And it was just this mic drop moment. It was like, and and Sarah and I have known each other for quite a long time, and like supported each other through stuff, and know a lot about, like, Sarah knows a lot about me, I know a lot about Sai, but it was almost this missing piece of like, well, if Zara's new and she's like confident and able to be able to tell us, then I should be doing some of this.
Wow.
And as we started to learn, like, there was some really crucial and key pieces of development that Green King did coming out of COVID around leadership. And as I lent into that space more, realizing that as a leader within the business, I needed to get better at this stuff and understand the type of leader I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I'd had some really poor experiences outside of Green King with leadership, like people wanting the stereotypical corporate robot, as I would put it, and me really struggling in those environments where you just couldn't be normal and just me, yeah. And to then come to I guess what that taught me was I really learned through those tough periods where the type of people I wanted to be surrounded by, the type of leader I wanted to work for, but also the type of leader I wanted to be. So I spent time coming out of COVID really thinking about what that meant as I was promoted in COVID into the leadership team at Green King, and almost took on the fact that I'd got a level of responsibility at that point of the business is changing and developing. We're trying to become a more diverse group, and I'm sat there as a member of the leadership team hiding this problem. Not that it's a problem. Yes, stereotypically a problem. Let's say that, yeah. But and I've got people around me that will be doing the same thing, and it doesn't matter what it is. If you've got an ability, disability, if you're any type of hiding who you are, this whole stiff upper lip attitude of corporate business and traditional Britain is, I almost swore, sorry, is a load of rubbish. Is a load of rubbish. And actually, knowing that I was going to be really safe with Si and Zara because they were being really authentic and really vulnerable, started to talk about it. And actually what that did was allow us to be more open and be more effective as a group.
And it's that when you have got that level of, I guess, fragility and vulnerability, that's when relationships can really, really grow. But I think it is important that you note there, Luke, that as whether you're a leader or a manager or even just a team member, we all have a responsibility to be ourselves, but also to enable other people to be ourselves, because, you know, it's not just one person's role. You know, great to hear that you had that moment of realization around yourself, but actually it has to be a collective. And when you're working for large organizations, or even if you're in a small organization, it's that collective power that will ultimately make change. How did it feel when you started to see Luke then coming out, you know, I guess being more honest about this as between you and you two?
I think it was really powerful, like really powerful. And I know the three of us, excuse me, have talked about this before in that opening of the gate, which I do think, as Luke said earlier, Zara was the gate opener, I think, within our small team at the time that allowed us to do that. And I think I've gone on to different roles. Zara's gone into different roles since we were in Luke's team. But I think the power of Luke's vulnerability with his leadership is definitely something I've taken into my further roles within Green King, which are just so powerful. And also as a leader, it makes you more human and people connect with you. And actually, you don't need to put a front on. You know, if you're having a bad day, that's all right.
Okay.
Because we're all normal. And I'd never seen that in a leader until I joined.
And I don't know what, I must have listened or saw something around vulnerable leadership at some point. But what really kind of hit a note with me is sitting there hiding who I am and my dyslexia and not talking about it, and that eats you up inside, right? You look out across the business, hypothetically, it's a very big business, you can't see everything at once, but you all you see in the board and the leadership team at that level where I was aspiring to go to was people walking around like they'd got their stuff really together. And they were just, every challenge, every hurdle was just a hop, skip and a jump and a breeze away. And actually it's not. Everybody is struggling with their own demons and their own inner thoughts and problems and struggles. And it isn't until as leaders we open up and talk about those stuffs, like with the shadow we're casting constantly is of like unattainability and superiority. If we're not doing that, And how can you inspire anybody to get beyond there in the thoughts, to be able to progress, and not only in organizational structure, but progress professionally, and not just professionally, but personally as well. Because everyone's got their own ambitions and desires to do. It doesn't have to be financial or physically a position within a business.
Yeah.
But until we start doing that, doesn't matter if you're a leader or not, everybody does that. When you do that, it really opens up.
It does, and that vulnerability, when you are in a place where you can feel safe to show that, it is powerful. It will, and it might start with, which is kind of, I feel, what happened here, knowing this from the outside, is that it started in your collective. That's built since then. Like, other people have heard the story. Luke, you've got on to manage different people. You're both in different teams. That will be now growing, because that behavior will be emaciating out of you, right? It's just it's part of your DNA now, and that will spread, because it's infectious behavior. That willingness to be open, it does make a change.
Yeah,
totally does. So we've talked a little bit about Zara and Si have got new jobs. I mean, they left Luke. I remember seeing Luke, and he was absolutely devastated, if we go back to it, that you were losing two of your key team members.
And was that when I was at the pub on a party?
He jokes about it now. But so, I mean, Si, if we start with you, if we roll back to how you started this conversation, being told that, you in this industry, you couldn't be an openly gay man to run a pub, to now moving into your current role. How does that, I guess, what is your new role? What does that mean for you? And what's been that journey to there?
Wow. It's been a journey. Our favourite expression. What was the question?
The journey to that role, because I mean, it's quite a big change for you. Right?
Yeah, it's a big change, and I think I've personally been on an interesting journey within my career at Greene King. So I joined as a general manager. Ran a brilliant pub over in Liverpool for 3 and a bit years. And it was, again, this is the power of leadership, isn't it? It was my business development manager at the time sat me down over a business review with a cup of coffee and said, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, stood over there behind that bar, serving Fred and Pat, who come in every day at 5 o'clock, and having a chat with them. And he laughed and then said, but this is a massive company and there's loads of opportunity out there.
Yeah.
Why don't you go and have a think? And he really pushed me into that zone of, there is more to life than the job that I was currently doing. So I ended up moving out of the pub, getting my weekends back. Woohoo! And I joined the locals North operations team at the time as a food operations manager.
Okay.
So supporting about 150 pubs up to Scotland, down to Birmingham. Loved it. Just loved the freedom of being able to go and offer support to people that really, really needed it. I'm going to really speed up now because it's been a long career.
Do we need a whole episode just for you, Si?
We might do.
Stealing the limelight.
Yeah, so I various roles within operations. Did a 18-month stint in the support centre in Burton, which I loved. Back out of there into an area manager role. And then again, during COVID, Luke formed this new central operations team in Destination Brands, and went over to Luke's team.
But then you had a career change.
Then I had a career change.
Because I mean, there's more to this story.
Then I had a career change, which was again a complete curveball. Hadn't thought about ever coming to work in a world that's called human resources, HR. But here I am now, and it still sounds really weird when I say it out loud. I moved across last August into the role of Head of Learning Experience here at Greene King. And I guess in a nutshell, my main role is to make sure that we are giving the people that currently work for us an amazing induction experience and teaching them the skills that they need to do their job.
Which again, you can take a lot of your experience of your very long career that you've just detailed. Thanks for that.
Sorry.
No, I'm joking. But that is helping you with the current role. But it's so nice to hear that through adversity of going back to that first initial story, that the path has led you to a role now where, you're bringing everything together, but also through then the power of working with people like Luke is that your leadership style and your own personal experience means that you can be, that inclusive person that we need that makes people feel welcome.
Yeah, and that's where I just keep pinching myself, that in this current role, I'm so privileged to be responsible for new people coming into this business and what their experience is. Like, yeah, it's such an opportunity, it's such an honour, such a privilege. And I am looking at it through an inclusive lens. I'm looking at it from I'm a real advocate of talking about mental health, and actually we should talk about that even on day one, week one of people's induction, because it's a thing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I always relate it back to, I think in the mid-90s, the government recognised that everybody had bad backs. So somebody somewhere created manual handling training, that health and safety stuff that we still all have to do. Actually, I think we've cracked that now, everybody. Let's not think about bad backs, but actually we need to take that application and talk about it when we consider mental health.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And that could be, again, another episode in itself, but it's important we talk about these things. Zara, tell us about your new role.
So I am HR business partner.
And before, when you were working in Luke's team, you were?
So I'd had a career of various different communications and engagement roles. And communication was something that I was doing in Luke's team. And I think I'd gotten to a point about 3 years into working for Green King under that role, absolutely loving it, but identifying that there were parts of the role that I loved more than others.
Okay.
So I saw a really good opportunity to go and have a career coaching conversation with one of the senior HR business partners at the time, Paul, about where can I move in the business. I was really passionate about well-being, inclusion and diversity. Where can I head to? What's a stepping stone for me? And Paul very craftily told me that I would make a very good HR business partner. And there just so happened to be a role in Paul's team coming up very shortly. So that's where I am now. I describe it as having moved up the career ladder in communications and realised when I've gotten 2/3 of the way up that the ladder's been leaning against the wrong wall. And it should have been over there somewhere on the people
I like that
wall.
analogy.
Yeah, so that's where I am now. So quite a career change.
Yeah. Again, into a completely different space, and I guess different challenges on a daily basis.
Completely, yeah. And please don't ask me to describe what an HR business partner does, because that's an ongoing joke.
I won't put you under that pressure. Luke, how does it feel seeing or hearing this? You were there at the time, but seeing two people who you had grown really close to and probably were relying on, but to see them grow their career, how does that feel?
Sounds a bit mushy, but proud.
Yeah, that's not
really
mushy.
Proud. Really proud of them both for doing it, being brave enough to come away from what they'd done previously and lean into something new. Proud of the business for allowing them to take those steps.
Yeah.
Like I know in specifically in Si's process for his job, there was external candidates with bags of experience in that space, but the leaders within the business decided that internal progression is the way forward for us, which so we're living and breathing what we are standing for. I think there's a little bit of me going, what am I going to do without them? Like, actually,
is that on both I guess, because part of the story is like a professional side, but also you've built this trust.
I mean, just purely not having the taken out of me every day by Zara. Like, what am I going to do without that? So, yeah.
We do still send you gifts.
The gifts still continue.
Yeah.
That's
like we during the time we worked together as in the team, we were very successful. Like we won awards, things like that within the division. We delivered a lot of change, but we had a really good time at the same time. So we laughed every day of the week. And that's the piece that I was like, they're going. And is it going to be as much fun?
Yeah.
Almost.
Because work should be fun, right?
Yeah, totally.
Do you think you would have got to there if there wasn't this feeling of, I guess, let's just term it as inclusion, but that's basically what you created here, was this really kind of tight, inclusive network between you. Do you think it would have been as fun had you not have built that relationship?
No, the camaraderie is all part of it, isn't it? Like, and you say tight and close knit. Like, yes, we continue to be really close, but it wasn't exclusively us.
Okay.
Like, we actively made sure that everybody that interacted with our team felt like they could be themselves, felt like they were coming to get the support. We were providing the support they required.
Yeah.
Both professionally and personally, like we would tailor our approach. There has been not to bring a downer on it, but there was comments from people within the business talking about we're having too much fun at work because we would be laughing and joking in the office. And when we sat around the table, that it would be the wider team. Anybody can sit around our desk. It doesn't matter what position you are, where you fit within our team. We would sit together. We would go to lunch together. We would laugh and joke. I am sport for anybody. Like everybody has a go at me, and I'm willing. I'm cool with that. Like if you've got you want to make me laugh and take the piss out of me, you can take the piss out of me.
Yeah.
I've said 4 times now. I'll try to say it again. So I am like fair game to anybody.
Yeah.
But and people would we'd find new people coming to sit at our desks.
It's infectious.
People would find a reason to come and sit upstairs with us when we were in the office because they knew that it was a great place to come and work.
I think you described it at the time to me and Si as we want to be the team that people either want to work with or want to work in. Yeah. So that almost became a bit of a mission statement for us. We already felt like that anyway as a trio.
Because you could be yourself.
We could be ourselves completely, but then it was about how do we make sure that we bring that to other people so they feel that from us as well.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me.
And as always, be judged by the results, right? So you can have fun at work, you can be yourself, but then you're being recognized and winning awards in your own division for the results you're delivering. Which is the whole point of feeling part and being yourself, is that you can bring more to the place, and that can only lead to better outcomes. Yeah. That's the benefit of it all. When you kind of, I guess, if we're reflecting back to the moment where you've either first within Green King or in your career, when you did feel that comfortableness to be able to say those words out loud, because you're continually, whenever you've got anything that is different, you are outing yourself all the time. Like you're all outing yourself again here today for some different format, because it'll be someone who either knows you or doesn't know you, but now knows something about you that makes you different. Where was that light bulb moment that went, was there a light bulb moment that went, I'm so glad I did it?
I can't think of any particular light bulb moment for myself. I think, like I talked about earlier, it's just been who I am almost just oozing out of me, which is a really gross way of describing it. But instead of I'm an oozer. But instead of some grand reveal like da-da, this is who I am. It's
why did you point at me?
Wow.
Well,
some feedback there.
Yeah.
Oh, plenty of that all the time.
It's easier as I've discovered who I am, which is an ongoing thing, to just share that, because I think through experience of coming out as bi, nothing changed off the back of it. No one's thought of me any differently. And if they have, I haven't known. And it's not affected me. So I might as well just continue doing those mic drop moments like I did with Luke and Si.
Yeah.
And let it ooze out.
Let it ooze out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a memory I'm going to take away from the podcast. What about you, Si?
I'm going to pick up on what Zara said there. And by the way, did someone say to you this morning, get the word ooze into the podcast? Or is that...
We knew when this conversation started today, this was going to go off in random directions.
We did.
Thanks for bringing your true selves to the podcast.
No problem.
We hit the brief. I think what you were saying about the mic drop moment, I think the way that you are in the business, the way that you show up, even the way you dress, the impact that has on people, me included, since we first met, is like really, really powerful. Yeah. Like we've had conversations before that said I've been an openly gay man since I was 18, but I've always stayed in my little safe swim lane of I'm gay here, here's what I know. And the amount of conversations we've had where you've taught me so much stuff and new language and opened my eyes to different things. And I think Luke the same. Yeah. Probably more so, Luke. But it's huge. It's huge. And I don't think you wake up in the morning and go, right, this is what I'm going to set out to do today. You just naturally do it, which again is infectious. And I would imagine in your new role is infecting other people in a really good way.
I think so, because
Infecting with your ooze.
Infecting with my ooze. This is taking a turn now. Because I think Si will appreciate, and you will, Gary. I think people in HR professions, especially HR business partners, can be seen as the Grim Reapers, human remains. I'm trying to change that perception.
And you don't have to look or act or be a certain type of person to be in this role. You can just be you.
Yeah, and I think I've evolved more as a person since coming into Green King than I have anywhere else. I was freshly out as being bisexual. I've continued to question my gender. I've plastered myself in tattoos. I've stuck piercings in my face. I've had various different hair colours. I've talked openly about mental health issues. Like, I have become almost too much of an open book at this point.
Don't say that. There's never too much of an open book, Sarah.
But that's only since coming into Green King, and I think off the back of the environment that we created as a collective that I've been able to do that, and hopefully that then does spread on to other people.
Yeah. It's important to show that message, and even you're wearing a hoodie today, which is from Boys Get Sad Too.
Yeah.
And there's messages that we can do in just the way that we dress, look, act at work, but it is showing that you don't have to cover up who you are.
No.
Is so important.
Yeah.
Like it just challenges people's way of thinking. And I think back to, I can't remember the term you said earlier on, Luke, was a corporate robot.
Yeah.
Those days have gone. We don't exist like that anymore. And especially working in hospitality in this industry, you can only be you. Otherwise, why are we here?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what Green King is here to do is to create great experiences for guests that come into pubs, into hotels, and into our restaurants. But it's important that that's achieved by being ourselves, right? That's the 100% that's the key.
Yeah.
Luke, was there a light bulb moment for you where you thought, I'm good?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a light bulb moment. I think there was a moment about 18 months ago. So I've had the business has been very good to me and supplied me with an external business coach that's really helped me overcome some of the inner voices and confidence things that I was struggling with. And one of the big things that I was struggling with was I have to go and present to the board quite regularly. And in the run up to that, I would get like my mind would be racing and I found myself sat in my car one day, a day before the day of the presenting to the board. And I'd sit there and go, well, they're going to find me out. Like, I'm hiding this. I'm going to get found out. I'm going to go in that room. I'm going to say the wrong thing. I say the wrong thing. They're going to find me out. They're going to realize I'm no good. I'm going to lose my job. If I lose my job, I lose the house. The children don't have anywhere to live. We're on the street. Like, absolute
catastrophizing beyond belief.
Yeah. But that was it. Like, and the only reason why I come to work and I've worked so hard and wanted to progress is because I want to provide security for home. Like, my mum had me very young. There's a story there to be told, but like, she was fantastic and my upbringing was amazing. But we didn't have very much money and things like that. We didn't live in a very nice area, that type of stuff. And I desperately want to make sure that my children have the opportunities that I didn't perhaps get. But there was a moment about 18 months ago. I've overcome that now. I'm like, I am cool as a cucumber, like in those rooms, I'm fine. But there's a moment where I just was like, I refer to it as an epiphany, that's a bit grand, but like driving along and really just went, hold up here. Like, I've been worried about the business wanting to get rid of me because I've got dyslexia and I'm hiding it. Actually, now let's see if they want to get rid of me. I've told them all about it. Actually, the shoe's on the other foot. Like, okay, yeah. Totally. And like, actually, I'm in my own shoes now. The ball's in my court because I'm owning my own destiny because I'm talking about it. Where actually it felt like it was really out of control before because it was like I wasn't in control of it because I wasn't owning it. Yeah. And like, I don't worry about it now. I talk about it too much. These two laugh at me all the time.
Never too much.
But
I think that is an epiphany, Luke. But I don't think that's an understated word. I think you can see that was a total mindset change.
And literally, I can see myself in the car driving down the road and all of a sudden just went, hold up, I'm suddenly in control of this now. And not that I was ever going to be in any, the business was ever going to put me in a position where they were going to get rid of me because I was dyslexic.
But that was
that was my story I was telling. That was the story I was telling myself. That they would realize I wasn't good enough for the job. But actually, with that mindset shift, try not to swear on that one. Then it gives you so much more power to control. It's because you're in control of your own fate. Almost.
Strength, right? It is that ownership of your own destiny, but also the power of being able to be you. Yeah. That's so important.